Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. I know it's not Halloween. Alright, that's long past. But when it came to my Halloween videos, I ran out of time and I couldn't upload everything I wanted to. So that's why I'm uploading them past Halloween. But if you stop and look at it like this, at some point in time, it's gonna be Halloween time again, October. So somebody eventually will stumble upon my videos and watch it around Halloween time. So yeah, and I'm here today to talk to you about Resident Evil Degeneration, also known as Biohazard Degeneration. This movie came out in 2008. And it's an all CGI movie of the Resident Evil video games, and it's also canon to that of the video games, unlike that of the live action Mila movies. And we get our introduction to Leon S. Kennedy, and also a reintroduction, in case you watched like the live action movies, to Claire Redfield. And these two haven't been seen in over 10 years together since Resident Evil 2. And so I remember when this movie came out, I was able to watch it on YouTube because somebody just uploaded it on YouTube. But they took it down now because you know how YouTube is. And I love this movie way too much. It was just awesome because I got into Resident Evil because of the live action Mila movies. And when those movies came out, I didn't know anything about Resident Evil. I didn't know it was based on a video game at that time until I looked it up online. But when the first movie came out, Wikipedia just wasn't the way. Well, I don't even think there was a Wikipedia, but the internet just still wasn't how it is now. So I remember when I first watched that first Mila movie, I couldn't find much information on Resident Evil other than it's a video game. So with the first three movies, I assume, that stuff must be canon to the video games, right? Right? No, they wasn't. They took little elements and sprinkled them into a live action movie, but that was about it. So, I really didn't know what the heck was going on. But then when I watched this movie, I started to get, okay, it's all CGI. It looks like the video game. Maybe it's more canon. And so I started to get more of an understanding of the craziness of Resident Evil and stuff. And Leon was such a cool character. But from what I've read, he's more sarcastic in the video games, and they made him more stone cold in the movie. I like his stone cold demeanor and everything. It was really cool. And so they made him more sarcastic in Resident Evil Damnation. I didn't really like that movie that much. And so, but for the most part, I've seen all the CGI movies except for the last one that just came out. And so Leon is actually voiced by Paul Mercer in this. And I really enjoy his voice and his mannerisms and stuff. After this, he got replaced by Matthew Mercer. They're not related, and they spell their last name completely different. And so Allison Court, she plays Claire. And I was very shocked and surprised to see the way Claire is portrayed in this movie. Because the first time I saw her was in the third live action Resident Evil movie, and she was completely different there. She was more hard-nosed, stone cold, and here she's more bubbly and everything. So I was very shocked and everything. And so despite this movie, I believe, being extremely good, it didn't do so well with critics. But, it got sequel after sequel after sequel and stuff. And so in this movie, you actually learn about the G virus along with the T virus, which is something the live action Resident Evil movies never bring into fruition. They only deal with the T virus. And I remember when this movie came out and I watched it on YouTube, the one thing I kept reading over and over is how everybody hates the character of Angela. And so, like Angela Miller, because she's a new character introduced into the movie. They didn't mention nothing about Curtis, but they mentioned something about like Angela. And the one thing I kept reading over and over is that they hate Angela's boobs. Because they're huge and ginormous and everything. And I'm just kind of like, since when did guys start hating boobs? It reminds me of the days of those, what they used to call them. They were like reply girls or response girls or something like that. They used to be on YouTube back in the day. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it used to be these groups of like young 20-year-old girls who will hop on YouTube, put on the skimpiest shirt they could find that showed their cleavage, hike up their boobs into like the camera as they're talking and stuff, and they would just respond or review or reply or react to like movie trailers and stuff. And they would do that to every movie trailer there would be. And the problem, and their videos be only like 2 minutes long or so. And the problem with them was that they never knew what they was talking about. And they only did it just to like make YouTube money and stuff. Eventually, they went away and they haven't resurfaced since. And that's because like YouTube nerdy guys like scared them away and stuff. But then when they kept complaining about Angela's boobs, that made me always remember those reply or respond girls or whatever they used to be called and stuff like that. And in defense of like Angela's boobs, which you know is just some horny dude made this for sex appeal to make like young guys like watch the movie and stuff. In defense of her ginormous boobs, if you look at Claire, and I know it's hard to tell because she's wearing a shirt and like another shirt on top of that, but her boobs are ginormous as well. They just look more condensed and padded in because of the two shirts that she's wearing. So, if you're pissed at like Angela's, you need to be pissed at Claire's. But I think the real reason why people don't like Angela is because when they saw how more faithful this movie was and they introduced a new female character, it reminded them of Alice from the live action Resident Evil games. And people are like, you know, they despise Alice and everything. Like they despise Alice so much. At first, I didn't mind Alice. Like in the first movie when I didn't know much about Resident Evil. And back in the day, I didn't mind her in the other two, but I was starting to get annoyed by her in the other two. Now, when I look at the Alice thing, it's kind of like, you know, people was right. When it comes to the second live action Resident Evil movie, the movie was fine until Alice showed up. They just went overboard with the whole Alice thing. And that's because the actress husband is the one who's producing, directing, and help writing those movies and stuff. And it's just kind of like it was too much of a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Like she was fine before, but then they started shoving her, and then it's just kind of like, you know, she's starting to get a bit annoying. Now, I've talked about this movie before when I compared it to that Netflix CGI short-lived television series. And because they basically copied and pasted everything that happened in this movie, but made it a million times worse for that short-lived CGI show. That CGI show was just so uninteresting to me. And because I don't really do Netflix, I haven't watched none of their live action Resident Evil stuff, but people don't seem to like those as well. But when it comes to this movie, I generally like this movie. I think it's fine. My only problems are with this movie is that the CGI is super outdated. Like when you watch Resident Evil Vendetta, the CGI looks so real, you think it's real people. But when you look at this movie, man, the CGI is just so old school. Also, the mouth movements don't really line up to what the people are saying. And it's very jarring because like they do close-ups on people's faces And so you see their mouths moving, but it's just kind of like their mouths are barely moving, and it just doesn't make no sense. The action is really good. I like the zombie stuff at the airport. The zombie stuff at the airport was some of my most favorite stuff in the entire movie. And of course, just anything Leon does in this movie is cool. He just has to talk and he's just like cool. That's why I was disappointed when he showed up in that one live action movie and he didn't act the way he did in this movie. And the big third act fight was really cool. Some of the stuff in the middle gets kind of lagging and boring. There are scenes where they just like focus on people's faces just standing still. Sometimes the music gets a little too dopey and stuff. And other than that, like, it's fine. But it does get a little confusing at times when they're talking about like the T virus and all this stuff going on in another country and like, all this bad stuff. But then, it starts to make more sense about the whole corporate espionage, like government bioweapon type things towards the end and stuff like that. Also, there is an awesome end credit song by a Japanese pop singer. I know her first name is Anna, but I can't even. Okay, her first name's Anna. Her last name I cannot pronounce. To Shiri or something like that. I can't pronounce her name. But her song is like awesome. I heard she's retired, which is a shame. I need to listen to more of her music and stuff. But like, pretty much when it comes to this movie, like, they do the typical Resident Evil, like, news, like, broadcasts and stuff like that. And like I said before, it's been 10 years since, like, the second game. And Claire and Leon haven't seen each other. They went their separate ways. He's kind of like a freedom fighter type person trying to destroy everything Umbrella has created and, like, all these bioweapons. And she's more of a, I don't know what you would really call it, I guess a humanitarian or something like that. So they went their separate ways and everything. And so basically, there's this governor. No, a senator, I think. And he's like, Ron Davis. And he's like a bureaucrat who, like, has like interests in like all this like umbrella crap and the viruses and a new place called Will Pharma. And so like Will Pharma, they are very much interested in like, the T virus and coming up with like vaccines and stuff like that. And so the senator dude has like, stock in there. And so like there's been some reports, I forget in what country, and like apparently there was like a T virus outbreak and all this other crap, and there's like some dictator dude who's like, bought it on like the black market, and so it's not looking good for the senator. And so he's in like the airport and he just wants to get out, but he gets recognized by a friend of Claire's. And so there's like a dude, he has like a zombie mask and he's acting a fool. Well, there's a dude on an airplane who's supposed to land soon at the airport, and he's sick and he's been affected by like the virus. The zombies in here look totally different than the live action movie. In the live action movie, they're basically just like zombies, like you'll see. Here, they just have like grayish skin, and their skin looks a little burnt, and and that's about it. And so like, it is very different when you look at both the two different zombies and like the franchise. So in a way, the plane crashes at the airport, causing all kind of confusion and all kind of craziness, and we get the huge zombie outbreak. And so that was cool to see, like the plane crash and stuff like that. So they sent in a task force team to like, stop the dead people. Now, remember Umbrella tried to like hide all this crap and all this other stuff, but people should know by now that there are zombies and all this other crap. So it's kind of confusing. They don't know how to take them down in this movie. So we get Leon and everything. And so he's basically telling like Angela and Greg of the task force team that he's only gonna take those two in and those two only, because he don't want like more people to get like infected. And then he tells them how to kill like the zombies and stuff. Basically, just shoot them in the head. Well, of course, nobody listens to him, and they just start shooting like crazy whenever they see people. Angela wants to help people, but Greg is just like a crazy person who's just shooting rounds and everything. And so eventually they will meet up with Claire and the rest of like the survivors, which is one the senator, Claire's little friend, and a few other people. And so they have to make their way out, but there are tons and tons of zombies. So it's a cool shootout and a fight scene between all that. And like the senator is a fool who throws like the little girl and a herd of zombies and stuff. And we get this cool scene where Leon is like pinned down by zombies, and he throws like Claire his gun, and like it's just like a really cool like action sequence. Like Greg gets bit, and so they make their way out. And when they make their way out, Will Farmer is there and everybody's being quarantined. And so like it's revealed by the head of Will Farmer, Frederick something. I forget his last name. But anyway, he's talking about how he has a vaccine for the thing, and Angela gets pissed at like Leon because they could have been inoculated and Craig would have been okay, but Leon didn't trust it and all this other crap. And so basically, it's kind of like they talk about some events that happened in that other country and how Leon's people and Claire's people and all that, they kind of, they didn't really screw things up, but they halted something that could have saved lives. And so she blames herself, but Leon's all like, it's Umbrella's fault and all this other crap. And so basically they all split up because like they want to know how this outbreak started and all this other crap because somebody blew up all the vaccines. And so there's a guy in this movie named Curtis Miller who turns out to be Angela's brother. And he was affected by Umbrella because like he lost his family and stuff. And so he wants revenge, and he's part of like this eco-terrorist group. And so I don't know if he was the one who blew up the vaccine, but I can't really remember. But he was like lagging around like the airports they think is him. So Leon and Angela go to like Curtis' house to see what's going on with him, while Angela decides for whatever reason to go with Frederick to Will Pharma. And so like Curtis' house is on fire. Like he has revenge on his heart. We get some sappiness throughout the middle part of the movie and everything. We learn about how like Angela like tried to save I think like one person in like a river, and so the rest of her team members tried to like fish her out, but then they end up dying. And so it's just basically stuff that make us sympathetic to Angela and stuff. You need a little something to be sympathetic with her about, something to know what she's about, because she's a new character. Anyways, back at Will Farmer, for whatever reason, Frederick is just acting weird. He's telling Claire way too much information about how, like, things work in his building and stuff. And how, like, he tells her, like, the senator called and, didn't want her to know too much and all this other crap, and he didn't want her to know that they have the G virus there and all this other stuff. And so like next thing there's like a call, he goes to check on it, there's an explosion, he calls Claire and it's all like it's Curtis Miller and blah 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 and stuff like that. So she's hurt from like the explosion and all this other crap. Leon and them shows up. And like this is where the third act comes, where Curtis decides to take the G virus. He wants to expose Umbrella and Will Pharma. And basically he's gonna do it like by the most extreme way, by showing people that look, these viruses are real, they create monsters, and the government's involved and the pharmaceutical people are involved and all this other stuff. So he turns to a ginormous monster with a giant eyeball on the left side of his body. I've never seen anything like that, not even in like the live action movies. I forget what this monster is called, but anyways, so he's taking out like the military task force and everything, and so Leon and Angela have to try and stop him. Angela's trying to plead with him, like, oh, you're my brother and stuff. And when this dude looks freaky, I mean, he looks freaky. Like, you still see his human head on this giant monster body. But then, like, after a couple of bullet rounds and all this other stuff, he ends up killing like the military. And then he transforms even more, and his human head just busts open, and it's like this monster head. And so he keeps going after Angela and stuff like that. And Leon says because y'all are related and he wants you as a breeding tool. One, gross, and two, how does Leon even know that? But anyways, the building they are in is like very advanced, and if it detects like an infection, it will sanitize the building by like spraying this type of gas and then setting it on fire, killing the virus and stuff. Well, since this dude is a giant virus, it's basically trying to like blow up every level of the building. So it's kind of reminding me a little bit of the first live action Resident Evil movie. There is an amazing fight sequence between Leon and Curtis the monster, and him and Angela just running around flipping around stuff. There's underwater stuff, there's a giant glass thing that comes down, and it's just like awesome. And so he's able to throw like the knife in the dude's giant eye, which is funny. But then, like, when he saves her, the way he kills this giant monster is basically shooting it between the eyes. He's supposed to take out the brain. I'm just like, this dude's a super monster. But then once he gets hit, he falls down and, below the building, and then, the door shut, and then it sanitizes the room, killing him and stuff. It's an awesome action sequence. And it's none of that CG, not CG, but it's none of that slow motion crap in the live action movies. It's a pretty cool fight sequence. Well, Claire's in the control room, and she realizes something. Somebody's been recording all this. So who the heck set all this crap up in motion because they plan on selling it on the black market? Leon gets a call, and basically, of course, who else is it? Frederick. He hasn't been seen in a good while, and he's the one who gave that dictator dude the T virus. He was also going to sell the G virus, but he realized G is too powerful, and so he did all this just to make an easy buck because the senator had no idea. So they stop him at the end of the movie, arrest him and everything, and then we get a farewell scene with all our protagonists. So they're saying their goodbyes and everything, and Leon's all like, I'm still gonna fight the people responsible for all this and everything. And so then we get an interesting scene towards the end. It's this Tricell company, and they're collecting Curtis's dead body parts that has the G virus mutagen in it. And so the senator has been assassinated, and because all the stocks fell, and somebody's downloading his computer, and of course and erasing all the files on there. And it's the new company. I assume this new company would be featured in the sequels and stuff, but I don't believe they ever was. And it's weird because when you get to Damnation and Vendetta, nothing seems to be continuity wise from that of this movie and stuff. They still take place within the video game universe, but I don't know if this was ever addressed in the later video games and everything. But all in all, it is, I think, a really good, entertaining movie, and you should check it out. That wasn't that spooky. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.